All right, folks, welcome back. I want to continue the discussion on grammar that we have begun, where we looked at just specifically the parts of speech, what were they, and then we looked at the noun-related parts of speech, and the parts of speech with verbs, and then we looked at the modifiers. All right, now I want to, actually, even we went to phrases and clauses in the last video. Now what I would like for us to look at is how those phrases, not necessarily phrases really, because phrases are unnecessary, but how clauses, remember we had dependent clauses and we had independent clauses, and how those two things can go together to construct different types of sentences. All right, so a quick recap: we have independent clauses. All right, independent clauses. We have subject, of course, and verb. All right, and they can stand alone as a complete thought. All right, so a subject and a verb that can stand alone, and it contains a subject and a verb, and it can stand alone as a complete thought. You're thinking sentence, and you're right. A dependent clause, all right, sometimes referred to as the subordinate clause, also has a subject and a verb, of course. Spelling. Subject and verb. Otherwise, it would not be a clause. It has to have a subject and a verb. But it cannot stand alone as a complete thought. Right? Now, I could just give you an example, like I went to the store. All right, so we could just make that as a, I went to the store. There you go. That is an independent clause. I went, subject, verb. It is a complete thought. It can stand by itself without any help. All right? This one would be like, after I went to the store, it is unfinished. That thought needs something else. It needs something substantial, a complete thought, to finish it out. We have the subject and verb in both places. But this one on its own can make sense. That one on its own cannot. All right? So that is independent clause and dependent clause, aka subordinate clause. So now, with this information, we can do all kinds of things. All right? We have sentence types, and I'm going to start with two. Then I'll erase this and put another two up there. All right, the first one is what is known as the simple sentence. All right, the simple sentence consists of a single, I'm going to use sort of a numbers thing here. One independent clause. One independent clause. That is it. All right? This right here, I went to the store, is a simple sentence. It is one independent clause. All right? So let's work with this one right here. Homework is hard. All right? Not even saying which type of homework is hard, but the fact that it is homework makes it hard. It makes you not even want to do it. All right? Just making yourself sit down and do homework is work enough. All right? But homework is hard. Subject, verb, and it can stand alone by itself as a complete thought. One independent clause is known as a simple sentence. All right? That's about as easy as it gets, ladies and gentlemen. But we also have our compound sentences. Right? So if you think of what the word compound means, let's think about a compound word, basketball. It's two words put together to make a single word, right? Basket and ball, right? Butterfly. It goes on and on and on, okay? So what then would we think a compound sentence is? If a compound word is two words that we put together to then represent another thing, and those two words become a word by themselves, what then would a compound sentence be? And if you're thinking that the compound sentence would be two independent clauses put together, you, my friend, are absolutely correct. All right? We have two independent clauses. Now, let's stick with our homework is hard. All right. We have one, homework is hard. But endurance is valuable. Homework is hard is a complete sentence. We've already established that. Endurance is valuable. That too is an independent clause, for it is a complete thought. It has a subject and verb. We have subject, verb, then we have subject and verb. Actually, they are the exact same structure. Subject, verb, predicate, adjective. Subject, verb, predicate, adjective, because this is an adjective. Hard is describing homework. Valuable is describing endurance. If you were to take this comma and this conjunction out, we could make two complete sentences on their own. Homework is hard, period. Endurance is valuable, period. Okay? But we have decided, for whatever purpose we want to make, or purpose we want to achieve in our writing, we have decided that these two independent, clauses, these two ideas need to be together. So we've put them together in our sentence, and we put them together with a comma and a conjunction. All right, that's option number one. Homework is hard, but endurance is valuable. All right. We could also, if we wanted not to use this, say homework is hard, semicolon, endurance is valuable. We can put these two independent clauses together using a semicolon. That is an option. We have options. We could leave them as two separate sentences. Homework is hard, period. Endurance is valuable, period. We have options, ladies and gentlemen, and that's one of the beauties of writing, is we are in control. We are in charge of what goes on our paper. All right? One of the reasons I love writing compared to some other subjects. When I'm in math class, I'm at the mercy of math. When I'm in physics, I'm at the mercy of physics. I took physics once. I was a sophomore at Oklahoma State University. The one semester I took at Oklahoma State University, I was in physics. And physics is the reason I became an English major. Physics, I remember taking the final in physics. It was the first all-nighter I ever pulled. I aced that final because I could think nothing but physics when I went in there. It took me no time to take it, and I freaking aced it, but it took every single bit of my soul away from me for a while. I finished that final. I grabbed my backpack. I walked across campus and into the English office, and I said, I've got to make a change. All right, but anyway, I have options. I'm in control here. One thing, though, is something you cannot do, and I cannot stress this enough. You cannot do this, and this is a rule that is beyond me, so don't look at me for help, because I cannot help you, for I did not establish the English language and its rules, as loose as they may be from time to time, but this is one that is a non-negotiable. You cannot put these two together with just a comma. You can't do it. That is a no, 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 no. All right? Homework is hard, comma, conjunction, and then endurance is valuable, or homework is hard, semicolon, endurance is valuable. But if you dare to write, homework is hard, comma, endurance is valuable, then what you have just done, ladies and gentlemen, is you've done something that is called a comma splice. And what does splice mean? Splice means that you are putting two things together. People splice wires together whenever, like hanging the ceiling fan in my house. I had to splice the wires together. The wires from the fan, the wires coming down from the ceiling. I splice those together. This is a comma splice, meaning you have spliced together two sentences, and you cannot do that with just a comma. You can't. This then becomes what we call a run-on sentence. And run-on sentences are grammatically incorrect and therefore considered bad. So do not do this. All right? No. All right. So we've got a simple sentence, which is one independent clause, and we've got a compound sentence, which is two independent clauses. All right. Move with me. Well, no, let's not move. I will erase this. We should know these definitions well enough as it is. All right. I'm going to change colors now just so you can have something to see. We've got one independent clause and we've got two independent clauses. Now we are going to move into something that is known as the complex sentence. And I hope this blue is so that you can see it, okay? The reflection in the camera looks like it's all right. So if this simple sentence is one independent clause, and this compound sentence is two independent clauses put together with a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon, what pray tell, is number 3, the complex sentence? Well, you know that we have been working with dependent and independent, right? We've got independent, we've got two independent, so maybe it's time for us to start sneaking in a dependent, right? Yes. So a complex sentence is at least one dependent clause, and one independent clause. All right? Okay. It's one of each. So what does this look like? Well, we could do it this way. Keeping our homework is hard and our endurance is valuable. Let's take a look at this. Someone might say, while homework is hard, endurance is valuable, period. All right? So, while homework is hard, like as if to say, yeah, it is true that homework is hard, right? So, while homework is hard, endurance is valuable. As if to say, I know this is difficult, but I am going to get something out of it, all right? And we still have the homework is subject verb, and we have endurance is subject verb. However, this one is now, because of this, which is known as a subordinating conjunction. Yes, that is a big word, and we might talk about it later. Essentially what it means is it's a subordinate conjunction. What do conjunctions do? Conjunctions put two things together. Because we used a conjunction here to put two things together. Did we not? Yes, we did. All right. So if we have this while, it is going to mean for us that we have to connect this with something else. That's what conjunctions do. And this is a subordinating conjunction. It is called that because it has turned this into a subordinate clause, which we also call a dependent clause, all right? So this has made it into a subordinate clause. And since it is a subordinate clause, it has to be connected to something else. So this is called a subordinating conjunction, all right? And this little sucker right here makes all the difference. But if you think about it, while homework is hard, endurance is valuable, does have a there's a nuanced difference in homework is hard, but endurance is valuable. This one is like considering while I understand that, I will admit the other, all right? So it does have a different feel to it, and it does convey a slightly different message than just these two together, all right? Now, I want you to notice that when this dependent clause comes first, we offset it with a comma. While homework is hard, comma, endurance is valuable. Now, since we have choice, since English is the subject that gives you freedom, ladies and gentlemen, you are free here, all right? I don't have to construct it this way. I can flip these around. I can say endurance is valuable while homework is hard, if I want to put it that way. If I want to say, after I went to the store, I went to the movies. Whatever, I know that's a lame sentence, it doesn't matter. But after I went to the store, I went to the movies. Or I can say, I went to the movies after I went to the store. Okay? I can flip those around. I'm in control. But if I flip it around, I would say endurance is valuable while homework is hard. If the dependent clause comes second, there's no comma. The comma is only when there's an introductory phrase or an introductory clause prior to the independent clause, okay? Last one, and I'll let you go. Is the Mac Daddy of them all? It is the compound complex sentence. All right, the compound complex sentence. So, ladies and gentlemen, using your skills of deduction, simple sentence is 1, compound sentence is 2, complex sentence is 1 of each. So what do you think is a compound complex sentence? Yeah, it's kind of like these two got together and had a baby, all right? It's at least, oh, this thing is dying on me, at least one dependent clause plus 2 independent clauses, all right? I'm sorry this is dying. I will use the black because I think it is actually going to show up better on the camera, all right? So just so you know, this here is the space where my compound complex sentence will go. All right. Keeping with our homework is hard, but endurance is valuable. All right. I'll do it this way. While homework is hard, endurance is valuable. So, I will get to work. All right? Move that over a little bit so you can possibly see that better. All right? So let's look at this as if it's one single sentence. All its parts I have broken up. So, while homework is hard, subject, verb, endurance is valuable, subject and verb, okay? I will get, subject and verb. All right? So, while homework is hard, that is a dependent clause. It cannot stand on its own. Endurance is valuable. That is a sentence on its own, subject and verb. I will get to work. That is a sentence, independent clause on its own. I will get to work. It can stand alone and it can make sense. So all three of these. So while homework is hard, endurance is valuable, so I'll get to work. That, my friends, is a single sentence, but that single sentence contains a dependent clause, an independent clause, and another independent clause. All right? So, I believe that's enough for your brains for now, all right? But I just want to let you know that these are different types of sentences, and again, we get the freedom to use them as we choose, as we feel will make the rhythm that we want to, or hit the certain points that we want to. Sometimes when we want a focus, we might have some long sentences that lead up to something, and then a short sentence to, boom, drive something home. We get to make that decision, all right? Comedians use this all the time. Politicians use this all the time. You know, a comedian might go on telling some long, drawn-out thing with these really long sentences, and then the punchline, boom, something simple and something quick. And it's like, catches you off guard, like, oh, ha, 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 okay? Politicians do the same thing, you know, I believe in this or this, you know, this thing happened, and I am the one to fix it, or whatever, okay? So, people manipulate, and I don't mean manipulate in a bad way, you know, to manipulate something, you know, means to kind of be hands-on and move things around with your hands, okay? Manos, hands, manipulate. All right, manual labor, working with your hands, okay? Latin. Anyway, the thing is, when using these things, you can decide how you want to use them for whatever effect you're hoping to gain, all right? So, it is, yes, this is grammar, sure, all right? But grammar does not exist in a vacuum. And you're knowing of this and being and realizing when you're sitting down to write, hey, I can use this how I want to achieve the goal that I'm setting out to achieve. That is when you understand that you, my friend, are a writer. That's what it's all about. All right, so that's enough for now. I appreciate your attention. So, check you later.